Ah, yes, as we are in the throes of summer here in Arizona, it's time to think about the cooler days and the places where you can go and get really cold in the winters, namely ice hockey, because GCU Club Sports, that's definitely one of the feature sports for GCU Club Sports, is men's and women's ice hockey. And so we're going to talk to the man who oversees all of it. He's the director of hockey operations for Grand Canyon, and he is also entering his 5th year as the head coach of the GCU men's ice hockey program because it's multiple teams. He has been around to Santa Rosa, he's been to UC Davis, and of course he's been to ASU, but he's the one who built the program from the ground up here at Grand Canyon. And as we look behind you, Danny, when I talk about building, you literally build, because when the season's over, all of a sudden you tend to disappear from the offices because you go down to AZ Ice Arcadia and start building. Talk about all the stuff that's behind you and what you've done with your locker rooms.
Yeah, well, I think part of our philosophy is making the program better each day than the last day and the last year before it. So a big goal for me every single season going into the off season is what can we do to make our players, when they come back, surprised to see something new, instead of expecting the same exact thing every time they get here. So, our first year out in Peoria, we were all kind of crammed into a little tiny closet where the gear was stored, and the coach just got dressed, and then from one of those shipping containers where the gear just cooked outside in the back of the rink, and then moved over here to AZ Ice. And the locker room went from just kind of a place to store gear and work out to last season we finally had two men's and women's dedicated locker rooms that were a little more temporary, and now this year trying to make something more permanent and give our players a home away from home.
Let's kind of go back to the original construction of the program, because you are the only head coach in GCU ice hockey history. When you came here from ASU, what was your template? What was your game plan as far as being able to build this slowly but effectively?
When I approached the idea with Dan Nichols, it was more so just kind of let's throw the word out there. Let's not get too serious about it. So we threw an experimental team together. I think I put together probably 15 players who were actually GCU students together. And then the rest of them were some guys who are high school level, or some who were at community colleges at the time. And they didn't have to go to GCU. It's just, let's get the word out showing that we're trying to do something, so that way we could get that snowball effect going. And then learned a ton from Greg Powers over at ASU while I was there as a player and a coach, about why his program was so successful there and why they're growing teams, and they attracted over 100 players every tryout. So I'm trying to take a bit of both worlds from there and put it all into one, and it seems to be working right now. We're growing as far as numbers each year. We have 3 teams, 2 men's and 1 women's team, and the women's team was extremely important for me to get going here. So it's all part of a 5-year building plan, and now we're going into the next 5 years and trying to figure out what big time goals we have and short-term goals we have for those 5 years, and just what kind of legacy I'm hoping to leave individually, but letting all of our players here know, and our athletes know, that they're putting their stamp on the history of GCU.
When I got here 3 years ago, it was continuing to grow. You had a Division II team and a Division III team in the ACHA, but last year you were able to make the step up to Division I for men's hockey. What kind of a milestone was that for you, and what does that mean for this program?
Well, like I said, I put together a 5-year building model right at the start, and it said on it, year 4, Division I men's, Division II men's, and a Division I women's team. And the fact that we hit it at that exact moment was big. It proved to our players that we recruited in, saying, hey, we're going to get to this level at this time. Some would look at it and go, you're pushing too fast. We are trying to push really quickly, and it wasn't too unrealistic where we were. We were definitely competitive this season, but welcome to the highest level of ACHA hockey. Here's what you're going to expect. And at least we were competitive enough to show that we belong here. Now it's time to build off that foundation and go.
You kind of took your lumps on the move to D1, but most people would consider that. you really, whenever you and I talked, you always felt like this is where we're supposed to be. This is a successful season, and this is where we are. So what do you take from this past season and go forward with?
It's every single thing, every single opportunity is a learning experience, whether it's a win, loss, or tie. The goal is to have a foundation of players that we can carry on from season to season to continue to strengthen our team culture. And the more bodies that we have of that going from season to season just means that we're going to get stronger and stronger. Like I said, we were competitive, but we're also a very young team. We haven't had that big recruiting class that graduates yet, where the teams that we've been playing, NAU and ASU and U of A, usually right now have about 6 players a season graduate as seniors, which is huge when you're talking about experience. So this season is the big one where we have a large amount of seniors, and then I would expect that to continue going forward. But those players take their experience from the last season, they take their rivalries, and then from that, each season they push it through the locker room, and they tell the guys what worked and what didn't work last year, what we need to be better at. This is a reason why we play so hard against ASU. This is a reason why we play so hard against U of A. Just all that stuff plays into it. And then from there, it just grows and grows and grows.
15 to 20 times a season. AZ Ice Arcadia over at 38th Street and Thomas Road in Phoenix is a happening place for D1, several times for D2, and about 10 to 15 times for the women's hockey team. You want to get involved? You want to find out more? Well, check the Twitter and Instagram accounts for both D1 Hockey. D2 Hockey has its own Twitter, and of course, Women's Ice Hockey have their own Twitter and Instagram, and they all have their own pages on our website. So you see all those details. Danny Roy, thanks so much for taking the time, and thanks for all the construction you're doing. You talk about a purple locker room. It's officially reality thanks to the handiwork of Danny Roy, and so now we put it into action this coming year. Thanks so much for being a part of In the Club, and until next time, I'm Jim Howell. We will see you then.